It was in a garage or a coffee shop or on a napkin. We all started out somewhere like this, with a dream of building something all our own.
What do you when you grow up?
A doctor.
And wherever we are in that thrill ride of an adventure, we're always working toward that dream. Weave was made for people like this. Made for the people behind the visions and the ventures. Made to make things run a little more smoothly. Made to be in and through the fabric of their small business. Because with Weave and the details of communications and payments and scheduling and all those things that cause headaches for small businesses, they can focus on serving their patients and customers and being great at what they do. Weave was made for the grinders, for the go-getters, for the ones with the never stop until my vision becomes a reality attitude. Weave was made for the dreamers.
Hi, and welcome to Business Growth Summit Spring Series. Today, we're going to discover compelling ideas and gather unique insights on how to grow your business or healthcare practice with content you won't hear anywhere else. This spring series is all about attracting new customers to your business. Future sessions will be about communicating better and retaining those customers. Yet throughout all of our sessions at Business Growth Summit, we want you to unlock insights and learnings to fuel your business growth in 2021 and beyond. I'm Courtney Osborne, Vice President of Marketing here at Weave. And as a personal fan of legendary characters such as Mr. Chow, Senior Chang, and Dr. Ken, I am thrilled to be introducing our first contributor. Ken Jeong has starred in productions ranging from The Hangover, Knocked Up, NBC's Community, and created, wrote, and produced his own ABC TV show, Dr. Ken, that drew from his background as a licensed physician. He is currently one of the panel judges on the breakout television show, The Masked Singer, and recently starred in the hit movie Crazy Rich Asians, alongside his first ever comedy special on Netflix. Ken is here today to talk with us about the art of capturing attention. Welcome, Ken Jeong, to Business Growth Summit.
Thank you so much for having me, Courtney. Really, really appreciate it.
Well, first, with that introductions, you wear a lot of hats. You're a producer, you're an actor, you're a comedian, you're a husband, a father. I mean, essentially, Ken Jeong is a business. Talk first about how you're balancing all of that.
I think it's all about priority, you know, and in the moment, and especially during the pandemic and in quarantine, all of us have to live day to day in the moment. And I think it is a combination, I believe, of long-term goals, short-term goals, and just kind of daily activity. So it's a lot to juggle, but I think everybody can relate to that mindset, and to me, it's all about priorities.
So our session today is called The Art of Capturing Attention. So in your mind, what makes it an art and not a science? Or do you approach attracting an audience like a science?
You know, I think it's a combination of both. I think having an aptitude of learning, whatever that is, whether it's a business, whether it's financial, whether it's creative, whether it's medical, those are all science because you're learning the vocabulary, you're learning the terms. So that really you can't get to art unless you master the science. And I think once you've mastered the science, then you have a flow and you have a personality and you have a sense of self with the science, and that becomes the art. And I gathered that even when I was a physician, when I was a practicing doctor, you know, after years of kind of mastering the medicine and mastering kind of the science of clinical patient care, and that takes years, decades, you know, even. But then I did at one point think to myself, this is an art form once you've mastered the logistics thoroughly, you know, and especially in medicine, it has to be authentic. Then you do make it an art form. It becomes art, and it becomes wonderful, you know, when you're at that level of artistry, you know, and mastery of craft. So I think the long answer to that is, or the short answer to my long answer is, science first and art last.
Yeah. The discipline behind the action that then you can get really creative with it. How did you begin attracting an audience? Like how, you talked about the discipline, maybe studying the art first, but how did you begin attracting it?
Well, for me personally, and everybody watching right now has different goals with their business and their lives. My goal was never to attract an audience, to be honest. My goal was just to be a working actor. When I left my job as a physician, I kept my goals realistic. I was 38 years old. I thought that ship had sailed, to be honest. Like, okay, I'm never going to be a lead or a star, but it's not too late for me to explore my craft and to be a character actor. I mean, that's really all I wanted to be. And to me, so I guess that it was an audience of one. It was just to make myself happy. It really was just for personal growth. It was for personal growth and fulfillment. And once that was achieved, then vis-a-vis for me, The Hangover, when I started having an audience, only at that time I really thought about, okay, this is, I have a drawing potential. But I didn't go into that wanting that necessarily. But when it was presented before me and that became my reality, then my team and my manager, we all embraced that. So and we ran with it. But so it's a bit of, I look at my life as a series of pivots, and sometimes good, sometimes bad, and you have to always be ready to pivot. And I pivoted. After The Hangover happened, okay, now I'm able to have a small business, and how do I think about that? What is my drawing potential? What's my real potential? Where do I really stand? As opposed to where I want to stand. It really is. Again, I feel like show business is best. The show business is best enjoyed when it's in the moment. Yeah. It's so volatile, and you can forecast. You can have the smartest minds in the world, but your stock can rise or fall precipitously. And I've experienced both. And you really just have to. Have a strong a constitution as you can. And I suppose that applies to any business.
That brings up this tension. You said that you just started with a dream, essentially. You started with a dream, you wanted to be happy, you had a passion that you wanted to put into the world. And businesses often feel that tension too, that they have this dream that they want to be personal, but they can't grow without scaling. So how do you make sure, as you grow your projects, as you grow, your dreams, as you said, you made these pivots, how do you maintain a personal connection with the audience and still make sure that your dreams are personal to you?
That's a great question. And as I got more successful, my manager we're always discussing more options of growth in terms of scaling, like getting an endorsement agent in addition to a theatrical agent, getting an agent that specializes in unscripted, like The Masked Singer is an unscripted show. So there are building blocks that you add, or adding a publicist, or maybe getting a publicist full time. I mean, it is fascinating thinking of my life in terms of scaling. But I do, at the end of the day, think it is all about the audience and the connection, or at the very least, the connection between the audience and the artist. And a friend of mine who's a producer, did say, to me, it was the ultimate compliment. And I think we were just talking business-wise during the pandemic, is having that I have the ability to expand or contract depending on where my own temperature is. If I'm hot in the business, you can expand it. If I'm cooling down, you can contract it. And he said that you have that self-awareness to expand or contract. And I really appreciate that. That meant more to me than any, and he kind of said that, incidentally, but that really meant a lot to me. And that's stayed with me for the last couple of weeks, that it's not being afraid to expand, and also not being too full of yourself and too prideful to contract. I think that one needs to have humility as well as confidence. You need a combination of both. And at the end of the day, I'm an entertainer, so me connecting with an audience, that's easy. That's my job. At the end of the day, they're deciding, kind of my salary. So in entertainment, it is pretty easy for me. And I would hope every entertainer, it's pretty easy to kind of reset yourself and recalibrate yourself. It really is all about the audience. Yeah.
I love that idea of expanding and contracting. Obviously, this session's about attracting more audience, right?
Sure.
But I want to explore that a little bit more. Tell me, when do you instinctually know when to expand? When do you instinctually know when to contract as a business owner? Or do you think it's just you take the cues from the external audiences?
I think it's pretty easy in show business because it's so instant. Fame can be instantaneous. Cancellation of a show like Dr. Ken was instantaneous. So the thing about show business is pretty self-explanatory when you need to pivot, which is scary in so many ways, but in many ways it's very clarifying. You kind of know. It doesn't take a business manager to tell me, it's time to contract. And yeah, I know no one's calling me. So yeah, I think I know. So so I think in show business is I think other aspects of business, other areas of business will be more nuanced. But for example, case in point, when my sitcom Dr. Ken was canceled, it definitely a time for a pivot, because for me at that point, I had accomplished a lot of my goals. I mean, I had been a part of #1 movies like Knocked Up and The Hangover trilogy. So and Transformers. So a lot of goals business wise was more than that. Was exceeding my own goals. And so when a show like Dr. Ken, which I not only starred in and was cast in, I created it, I pitched it to the networks, that was my small business. And it's so funny where when I was producing and acting in Dr. Ken, I did always tell myself, this is like running a small business. I have a business of a few dozen employees, and we're trying to put on a show, and there's many corporate hats that, we're leasing a soundstage from Sony and ABC, we're renting, it had that qualifications of a small business. But once that business went under, it is about, okay, where do I go from here? Do I give myself some time emotionally to recover? Do I just jump right in? Do I have that? And that's different for every individual. There's no right answer for that. But for me, I do remember pivoting pretty quickly, knowing that in show business, you have to. I think the quicker you act, the better. And it was the day after Dr. Ken got canceled. I was booked to film Crazy Rich Asians, which was set in stone before the cancellation. But I do remember filming Crazy Rich Asians. The one scene that I'm in, my most prominent scene behind the scenes, was literally, I think 48 hours my show was canceled. And I do remember sometimes when I watch the movie, it's a different feeling. When I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe I kept it together and did my job. So it has a different meaning when I see that scene, and it really was. But I was just grateful that I was able to kind of keep it together, because that movie helped me in other areas and continues to. So to have that presence of mind to keep working, very fortunate that I have very strong team, strong family, to kind of keep me strong.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know you're a licensed physician and had a medical career before getting into acting. So what drew you to medicine, and what can we learn from that experience?
I had a career. I always thought I would have a career in academics. So for me, what drew me to medicine was the academic aspect of it all. And I graduated. I skipped a grade like second grade when I was a kid. I graduated high school at 16, and I graduated
Stop
Duke
bragging,
at
Ken.
20.
Come on, stop
I
bragging.
haven't finished my resume yet.
Let me.
Hold on, I have.
I skipped second grade.
Valedictorian, no, salutatorian.
Duke. You went to Duke. I mean,
went to Duke. We had
you're
a
smart.
record
Just say it. You're
of
really smart.
25 and 9, and made it to the Final Four 2 out of 4 years. Yeah, I'm just reading my Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
That I edit and write myself. I thought that I thought my whole life would be academics. I thought that my goal was to either become a biologist or a physician, and I thought that I was wired that way. And my father is a retired economics professor, and my sister is a science librarian. And so needless to say, I mean, my whole life has always been about academics. And so I just thought that acting and comedy was just this incredible detour. Even in high school, I had no desire. I didn't do any theater. I never did. I never explored a career in comedy, never had that kind of mentality. So I really was a late bloomer in many ways. And when I was at Duke, then I discovered acting and took an acting class and just immediately just got the bug. And it's funny. I still in my home, my wife's a physician as well, and our kids are very much raised in a similar environment where academics is most important. But with the caveat now, don't be afraid to take artistic risks, and don't be afraid to think outside the box. So I feel like I have kind of in my household the kind of value system that I had as a kid, plus my own experiences of enlightenment, of also don't be afraid for wonderful detours, and don't ever count those out, but stay the course,
Yeah. With your unique perspective in both the medical world and the comedy, acting, producing world, how can people, healthcare, doctors or otherwise, make their business more attractive to people?
That's another great question. I remember when I interviewed for my residency, that was after I graduated med school and did my postgraduate training. The person I interviewed with in New Orleans at Ochsner Foundation Hospital, Donald Irwin, I got to give him a shout out. He's a prominent nephrologist, and said, you will be, he allowed me to blend my worlds of comedy and medicine. He said, a lot of people will say, yes, your comedy experience will help you become a better physician. And that's pretty straightforward, but your medicine will help you be a better comedian. And he was the only person that I had interviewed with that said to me, if you decide to leave medicine full time and go into comedy, you're going to blend it, and there'll always be a part of you in each world. And I think, I really think that gave me a lot of clarity in my 20s, that I wasn't this weirdo, seeking something that's completely incompatible, when you look at the Venn diagram of it all. But to answer your question, I think healthcare and entertainment, to find common ground, if you look at that overlap, if you look at that Venn diagram, is both fields are, you are trying to communicate with an audience. You're trying to communicate with the person that's watching you and listening to you. And so I do believe healthcare, like entertainment, is about, the best TV shows are the best written or the best acted. So therefore, they're the best communicated projects. And the best doctors, they're the smartest. They are the most in tune with the patient. They're the best listeners. There's that overlap of really, really efficient and clear-cut communication. I think that's where healthcare can learn from entertainment, and entertainment can learn from healthcare in terms of, I think just looking at everything in totem. As when you're dealing with patient care, it's the physician, it's the nurse, it's the it's the physical therapist, it's the receptionist. There's a whole team involved, much like there is in an entertainment capacity where you have director, producer, writer, actor, crew members. Everybody's important. So I think it's a reminder in entertainment, it's a team effort. It's not just one person, the famous person getting all the credit. It's if anyone's on a movie or a TV set, you realize the talent or the celebrity is the least important person behind the scenes, or just one important feature behind the scenes.
I love that. You kind of alluded to the empathy too in communication, and that empathy and communication between a patient and a customer, or an actor and somebody. It's about connection. And I'm putting a little bit of words in your mouth, but tell me a little bit more. I want to explore that. What else can the healthcare industry, there's a lot of doctors watching this because they're small business owners too. What else do you think the healthcare industry can learn from the entertainment industry? And vice versa. I'd love you just to answer that a few more ways.
I mean, I think that if let's say if I were still a physician right now and I was doing my own solo practice and I wanted to start my business, I would capitalize on my own uniqueness, not only as a physician, but what other aspects of personality that I have. If I was musical and if I had ads that were music based, or if the word on the street because patients have word of mouth, for what doctors to go to, like this physician, he was opera trained, so he has an extra empathetic ear towards musicians, and he really knows how to treat and provide patients with peak performance. I think it's just capitalizing on your own uniqueness even outside of medicine, and see if you can streamline that into your business model and make that stand out versus other practices. That's just off the top of my head, is always capitalizing on your own uniqueness and not necessarily listening to what other people tell you what you're unique at. Only you know. But I think that's pretty sound advice.
Yeah, amplifying your authenticity, and
there you go.
Yeah, I got a thumbs up. I like that.
You got a
That's
thumbs
awesome.
up, a Zoom thumbs up.
A Zoom thumbs up. So the majority of the audience today, and I think this will probably be our final question, the majority of the audience today are dreamers like yourself, and small business owners and operators. What do you want small and local business owners across America to know from Ken Jeong?
Anything is possible. Don't be afraid to take risks, and don't be afraid to admit you're scared. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, I think that's because all of those things I just described, I'm projecting, that was all of my feelings when I quit my day job, because I was scared. I really didn't know where this would lead me. I really didn't know. I knew I was talented. I knew I was passionate about it, but you just don't know. And that's okay. And if my life had turned out another way, let's say the hangover never happened and I never reached the success that I had, I would have been at peace with it. I would have possibly gone back to medicine, or possibly pivoted somewhere else. You don't know unless you try. And you really just, the only way to succeed is to try. And and sometimes the only way to succeed is to fail, and don't be afraid to fail. I love that Michael Jordan commercial back in the day, is I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. And I think about that a lot. It's just not being afraid to fail.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Ken. I have learned so much about communication and authenticity and attracting the audience that we want. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and thank you for joining us at Weave's Business Growth Summit. I'm really an honor to be here, and I wish all of you best of luck in your endeavors.
Keep watching for more insights from star violinist and social media phenom Lindsey Sterling, Weave CEO Roy Banks, and more business growth experts at Business Growth Summit.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I joined Weave as CEO a little less than 6 months ago, and I've been anxiously awaiting Business Growth Summit so I can get in front of you and share my passion and love for small business. 2020 was one of the hardest years for small businesses I have ever seen. I've led companies through recessions and difficult economic times, but what you went through this past year was truly unlike anything we ever have seen or could have anticipated. You overcame the fear, uncertainty, and doubt of the COVID pandemic. You've had to adapt and transform the way you operated as a business. The way you communicated, engaged, and serviced your customers, clients, or patients all required new technology and solutions. None of you probably ever thought you would have to conduct business in an environment where everyone would be required to wear a mask and have to socially distance ourselves from one another. This is one of the reasons I admire and have dedicated my career to serving small businesses. Small businesses are genius and masters at adapting and innovating. That strength and resilience is truly inspiring and one of the reasons I actually came out of retirement to lead this company. I just couldn't hang up my hat and sail off into the sunset. I needed to be a part of a mission that inspired me, and the everyday challenges you were facing and how you were overcoming them left me in awe. That perseverance reminds me of another story of heroism through nearly impossible circumstances. 50 years ago, NASA almost experienced the worst disaster in its history. In 1970, the Apollo 13 mission was planned as a lunar landing mission, but was aborted en route to the moon after about 56 hours of flight due to the inability to generate electrical power, to provide oxygen, and to produce water. When asked during the mission if he felt like it was going to be NASA's darkest moment, Flight Director Gene Kranz responded, "No, this is going to be our finest hour." And indeed it was, as they were able to safely return home, all 3 astronauts turning tragedy into triumph. Well, 2021 is your year to turn tragedy into triumph, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. When I joined the Navy 30 years ago, I learned a lot about overcoming challenges. One of the mantras I live by is this: the only easy day was yesterday. Gratefully, you made it through 2020, and while there is a return to optimism, 2021 is going to present new challenges for your business. The good news is we're here to help. I'm an avid reader of nonfiction and autobiographies because, to me, there's no better or faster path to success than learning from the mistakes and experiences of others. I don't have to tell you that, though. You wouldn't be here today if you didn't know this already, because this is what Business Growth Summit is all about. Taking the advice and expertise of others who have done it before and using that knowledge to fuel your business growth. So today I want to share with you some of the universal challenges we here at Weave are seeing businesses like yours face in attracting new customers and implementing success strategies that can fuel big wins in your business. As I've joined the team here at Weave, I've had the opportunity to sit on calls with our customers, the people who run small businesses just like you. And I've noticed something. While your businesses may be different, many of your challenges are the same, and that's where I'd like to focus today. The first challenge you share is that inefficient tools and systems are holding you back from truly connecting with your customers. You're constantly bouncing from your voicemail to a web chat tool, to an off-the-shelf email portal, to a patient management system, or to your accounting software, all while you have to serve and take care of your customer. It can be exhausting, and those aren't even why you got into business in the first place. These are merely the systems and tools you use and rely upon to operate your business. Second, competitors are modernizing faster and seem to have more resources to be innovative and meet their customers where they are. It can feel like a hamster wheel. You're running 1,000,000 miles an hour just to keep up with the competition, which can be daunting and overwhelming. And lastly, growth and profitability are your primary goals, but they aren't why you do what you do. You love interacting with customers, you love the impact your products or services have on their lives, and you love the smiles and gratitude they share when you do your job right. You don't feel the same joy and excitement about answering after-hours calls or picking the right web chat tool. Summing it up, you're burdened by inefficiencies and you feel the pressure of competition, and you don't enjoy many of the burdensome tasks that can have a major impact on growing your business. Sound familiar? Well, here's the good news. You can do something about it. Let's dive into how to create big wins that accelerate growth in your business. First, customers want to be seen. I want to get very real and personal with you for a moment and share a painful story of a time when a local business lost me as a potential customer. The suit you see me wearing today isn't my normal attire. You might hear my team here at Weave laughing as I say that because I'm normally in shorts and wearing one of at least 100 different college football t-shirts that I own. It's my standard outfit around the office and on video calls. I've made a good amount of money throughout my career, and I, admittedly, like some of the finer things in life, I'm a sucker for fast cars. A few years ago, I went to go buy a new sports car at a local dealership. I was in a baseball cap, my standard shorts and t-shirt, and was ready to order and pay cash for an expensive sports car I had dreamed about owning for several years. I went into the showroom and watched as multiple salespeople helped other customers, even those who came in after me. I waited over 30 minutes for someone to come help me or just even see me, and when no one did, I decided to leave. Now, I know I don't look like the typical CEO, and I'm not talking about my height. I was overlooked and judged because of the way I looked, the color of my skin, and the clothes on my back. As I walked back to my car, a salesman finally approached and engaged me in the parking lot, asking if I could be helped. I told him that it was too late and that they had lost a sale. They had failed to recognize or see me as a customer. And here's the lesson. Being seen is important to your customers. It's the massive advantage you have as a local business over your larger competitors. But unfortunately, many small businesses are too busy and stuck in the weeds to spend time giving customers personalized experiences and services that build customer loyalty. We often are so busy worrying about the competition and the day-to-day operations of running a business that we forget to put ourselves in the customer's shoes. We overlook one of the most important ways to connect with customers, which is to have empathy. At Weave, we often talk about being customer obsessed, and that starts day one. Every single Weave employee does a simple exercise on their first day. They put themselves in our customer shoes and listen to a series of voicemails that are typical of those left by our customers. You'll likely agree with or identify with these kinds of messages and challenges. One caller forgets to leave a number to call them back. Another neglects to give their name or only gives the name of their pet who needs to be seen. Another's message is so garbled you can only make out every other word. Listening to these messages can be very stressful and even frustrating. We train every single Weave employee to intimately understand the challenges our customers face while running their business and taking care of their customers. Without customer empathy, we cannot be a vital part of your business or help you attract, communicate, engage, or retain your customers, because that's what being in business is all about, taking care of your customers. That's the power of putting yourself in your customer's shoes. When was the last time you visited your own website or called your own office after hours to leave a message? Have you tried scheduling an appointment in the last month? Have you called your competitors and tried to do the same? You often only get a few interactions or touch points with your customers. What if instead of making them ordinary or routine, you made them amazing and memorable? I'll say it again. Customers want to be seen. Giving them high-quality experiences can turn one interaction into a lifelong relationship. It not only differentiates you, but it gives you competitive advantage while growing your business. The reply see to confirm text message approach to communicating with your customers is dying. It was once a scalable, sensible way to make your business more efficient, but we're in a new era where you don't have to sacrifice personalization for scalability. Let's be clear. Most of you yearn for those meaningful conversations and interactions with customers. You want to be freed from the often mind-numbing tasks that pull you away from those customer experiences. Sound familiar? It's that first challenge I laid out for you. Inefficient tools and systems are holding you back from truly connecting with your customers. As a small business owner, you must constantly look for efficiencies in your business and focus on things that will save you time. Your natural urge is to serve your customers. So when you save yourself time in your day-to-day operations, you'll naturally have more time to create incredible customer experiences and listen to their feedback. One other important reality is customer behavior and expectations are changing like never before, which brings me to my next growth tip. You have to stay ahead of your customers. 2020 wasn't just a hard year for your business. COVID has driven a need for connection and interactions like never before. Communities are yearning for the small things that have been missing from their daily interactions. In-person conversations, handshakes, smiles, and hugs. all of which are an important part of the business-customer relationship. While creating feel-good experiences and amazing interactions for customers should be the goal of every business, they are also an opportunity to drive revenue and to grow your business. In the last recession, McKinsey found that businesses who focused on delivering quality customer experiences actually drove better returns, 3x the return to shareholders than companies that lagged in customer experience. This means driving meaningful interactions with your customers, clients, or patients will translate into successfully growing your business value and increasing customer retention. McKinsey also found that 39% of consumers tried new brands during the pandemic. COVID has changed consumer behavior significantly and measurably. For example, customers are now demanding higher quality experiences and preferring alternative ways of communicating and engaging with businesses. In order to attract and retain customers, small businesses have needed to adapt to these changing customer trends. And you're in luck. Because of customer communication and engagement technology like Weave, small businesses can facilitate and manage customer interactions in a unified, modernized, and personalized manner that best fits their customer's preference. Whether it's in person, chat, email, text, phone, or some other digital method of communication, small businesses using Weave can communicate and engage their customers in a multitude of ways that creates the best customer experience, attracting more customers, creating high-quality experiences, and leading to more growth. Early in my career, I was part of one of the first companies to make it possible to accept credit card payments online. That innovation was a game changer for small businesses. It not only transformed the way businesses could sell products and services, but it also created an entirely new commerce channel and environment. Like many new innovations and change, some businesses can fear embracing new technologies, or others can use innovation to fuel growth and gain competitive advantage. Up until the advent of e-commerce, the internet was a platform to conduct research, not commerce. Then one day, someone decided to sell something online from their website, but had no way to accept a payment. A new economy called e-commerce was born. The small businesses who quickly embraced, adapted, and innovated to this new way of reaching and selling to customers were able to capitalize on a new growth opportunity in sales channel. Suddenly, consumers started preferring to buy from businesses that were modernizing and creating more convenient and technology-driven shopping and payment experiences for their customers. Consumers could now shop from the comforts of a chair behind their desk and from their computer without having to get into their car and drive to the store. Fast forward to today. As the economy starts to open back up, consumers are eager and ready to get back to a new normal, which now requires businesses to offer multiple ways to communicate and engage with their customers. What will you do to show them how you've innovated and adapted to the new customer buying or service experience? How will you make every interaction memorable and amazing? Don't be scared by the changes in consumer behaviors caused by the pandemic. Be excited about them. And similar to the birth of e-commerce, embrace them as an opportunity to adapt and create competitive advantage while creating better relationships and experiences for your customers. You have more opportunity to grow and thrive than ever before if you're not just willing, but excited to adapt. I can tell you that even at my tender age of 54, that I continue to be amazed at how those who are the first to embrace new technology are given tremendous competitive advantage. The businesses who adapt create new operational efficiencies and grow revenues, and that's a 1-2 punch to your competition. Endeavor to learn the new tools and technology that can grow your business and create amazing experiences for your customers. Because when you come to appreciate what a technology can do, it's both a liberator and a game changer. And if you can't adapt, you'll get left behind by your customers. Your customers ultimately will dictate the pace and speed that you will need to move. If you're moving too slow and not meeting them where they are, they will leave you behind. And that's my greatest fear for your business this year in particular, that you aren't paying attention to what your customers need and how their behavior has changed. And because of the pandemic, everything has changed, and so must you. As a small business, you can't outsource the work you need to do. Small business owners are the very heart and soul of every business and what customers love and value most. Without you, there is no business, which brings me to my final tip. Growth starts with you. I've talked a lot about the challenges your business is facing and some of the changing dynamics to driving customer growth in the new normal. But there's a massive X factor in your business, you. Transforming your business has to begin with you. And let me tell you, your ability to transform and adapt is what terrifies your competitors and what will set you apart from them. I've run companies and led teams for more than 3 decades. During my career, I've developed a few habits and rules I like to live by. I'm an early riser. I wake up around 4:30 a.m. each morning. I work out for about 2 to 3 hours doing cardio and lifting weights. As a veteran of the United States Navy and the son of a father who spent over 20 years in the Air Force, I've learned about the value of waking up early every morning. If I accomplish nothing else throughout the remainder of the day, at least I can say and check off my to-do list that I got my workout in. It's amazing how completing a task each and every day can make you feel and how it can help you grow and be successful each and every day. I learned this lesson from 4-star Admiral William H. McRaven, who is a retired and decorated U.S. Navy SEAL and was responsible for the planning and execution of Operation Neptune Spear, which led to the killing of Osama bin Laden. Admiral McRaven, like every other Navy SEAL and sailor in training, had to make his bed every morning. If the task wasn't done properly, he'd be sent on a 10-mile run. Making your bed is about getting your day off to a good start by accomplishing one task each and every day. It's how we make progress and grow. So what does this have to do with running a small business? Make time every day to learn about your customers' experiences with your business. This is your bed-making routine. Small businesses today are lucky in this regard. You have dozens of ways to ask customers to give you feedback that you can learn and grow from. Review sites, surveys, SMS, email, chatbots, web forms, the list goes on and on. The insights and research that can power your growth are right in front of you. If there's one thing every single business owner can do to grow their business, it's take every opportunity to learn from their customers. Quite simply, you should be looking at your reviews every day and encouraging your customers at every interaction to leave feedback. There's no excuse for a business today to not ask a customer to leave a review. You can learn so much about your business directly from your customers. Customers have more ways to connect with your business than ever before, and that means there are more customer journeys they can take to finding you or your competitors. So assuming that their kind smile at the front desk after their appointment is the only feedback you need is foolish. They may have had a painful experience booking their appointment. They may think your office is too cold. Feedback that helps you grow isn't always positive. Get comfortable with that, and instead of resenting it, be grateful for it and use it to fuel your growth. You have to change your mindset. A customer cared enough to give you feedback. Now it's your job to grow from it. I would never ask or suggest someone to do something I'm not willing to do myself. At least once a week, I respond to customers who reach out to me. I do it because they deserve a response and they deserve to know I've listened to their concerns. Every small business owner should dedicate some part of your day to studying the reviews about your business and engaging with customers who left them. Because if the customer doesn't think you're listening, they won't be a customer for long. Before I leave you, I want to share a final story. I've spent my whole career in small business. If I had to add it all up, I've provided tools, technology, and services to hundreds of thousands, likely millions of small businesses. And nothing gets me more energized in the morning than to continue helping small businesses grow and succeed. A Weave employee recently asked me what my proudest accomplishment in my career was. At one of my companies, we had a ticker that kept count of how many small businesses we served. I'll always remember the day it struck 200,000. That number on the wall was so rich with meaning for me. 200,000 people trusted us and relied upon us for their very livelihood. We were an indispensable part of running their business successfully. If we didn't do our very best, these businesses would suffer and perhaps even fail. I felt proud, but I also felt the weight and responsibility that came with providing reliable and secure services. I know you feel the same way about your business as well. If you don't serve and take care of your customers and provide them with amazing and memorable experiences, they will suffer, and ultimately, so will your business. We are at the start of a new revolution for small businesses. The tools and technologies that have historically been available to enterprise companies are now at your fingertips, and the consumer mindset is shifting in an unprecedented way to create the perfect mixture of circumstances to drive growth for millions of small businesses and local businesses across the globe. I'm proud that Weave solutions are an equalizer and a competitive advantage for small businesses like yours. I love what we do. I said it at the start of our chat today, 2021 is your year to triumph. Game on.
This is Max, and this is Weave, reminding your customers of their appointments so you don't have to spend hours on the phone while keeping Max on schedule. No matter where you are or what you're doing, customer communication is made easier than ever. Know exactly who's calling in and how to help them.
Hi, Trevor.
Giving customers a personalized experience. Keep your busy team in sync with Team Chat to meet customer needs faster and get more work done. Allow customers to pay their bill whenever and wherever is convenient for them, using Text to Pay. Turning happy customers into evangelists.
All right, what do you think?
Using Weave Marketing to collect reviews and gain exposure. And now, handling all your payment processing so you can spend more time focused on what matters. This is Weave, the complete business toolbox. This is Weave Unify, a top-tier customer experience platform for multi-office businesses to operate as one. Every aspect has been thoughtfully created to unify your offices, team, and customers, starting with replicating your top offices. No matter if you're working from here, or here, Weave creates centralized administration, reporting, and analytics while optimizing business. There's no more missing calls from potential customers, certain offices lagging behind in production, or any of this.
But don't go to the one on 5th Street.
With Weave Unify comes the rest of Weave's suite to transform your multi-office phone system into a revenue-generating tool. Ring phones across multiple locations, sync customer data, set up inter-office call overflow, see upcoming appointments, overdue balances, family information, all with just picking up the phone.
Hello.
It's also one of the most powerful tools for ambitious growth. Powerful enough to never need another business management system, fast enough to merge any relevant data, and simple enough to avoid office migration headaches. That's right, it's gonna be okay, Linda. That's not all. We didn't just think about the office or the people using it, but how it all works together for the ultimate customer experience. From the moment they first call in to their final payment, the Weave experience will turn a polite smile and a wave into, well, this. Your neighbor's cousin's dog will even be hearing about how great your business is. Unify your offices, your team, and your customers. That's the power of Weave Unify.
Welcome to this next session as part of the Business Growth Summit. I'm Jeff Lyman, the Chief Product Officer here at Weave, and I jumped at the opportunity to interview this incredible performer today. Lindsey Stirling is a world-renowned violinist, dancer, and artist with a social media following that is simply astounding. Nearly 13 million subscribers on YouTube, 4 million followers on Facebook, 1.5 million Instagram followers, 1.2 million TikTok followers, 500,000 followers. I mean, I'm getting exhausted just talking about this. On Twitter, her social media following has propelled her to publishing a New York Times bestseller, becoming a runner-up on Dancing with the Stars, winning multiple Billboard Music Awards. The list goes on and on. She's joining us today to share her story behind how she built her following, how she stays authentic to herself and her music, and how audience connection has driven her wild rise. Lindsey, welcome. It's so great to spend some time with you today.
Yes, thanks for having me, and thank you for that stellar intro.
You bet. Okay, let's start at the very start. I mean, very early on, as you're growing up in Gilbert, Arizona, you discovered you've got these talents, and they're not limited to one. It's dance. You were amazing on the violin. When did you start to put these together and then decide, I'm ready to actually start doing this in front of people I don't know?
Yeah, you know what's funny is growing up, I was pretty much a violinist. That was Lindsey. I play the violin. And it wasn't until I was quite a bit older that I thought to myself, I want to add something to what I'm doing. And the reason I thought that was because that's when I started to write music, was when I was in my 20s. And as I was writing this electronic violin music, and I'm sitting there, I always was so uncomfortable moving. I would just play like a statue. And, you know, now I'm known as a dancing violinist. And I didn't start dancing until I was 23 years old. And I was self-taught for the first while. Actually, the only lessons I've ever received were when I was on Dancing with the Stars. And the reason I decided I wanted to move and play was, one, because I'd always loved dance. It was like the talent that I just never had gotten to like exercise. But secondly, a lot of times, and to this day, I think to myself, what would I want to see? I really put myself in the place of an audience member or a consumer. And I'm like, what would I want to see if I was hearing this music and if I was at a show? And so I was like, there has to be energy. There has to be movement. So that's why I taught myself how to dance when I was 23. And then it was interesting because I actually went to film school. I did not go to business school. And I remember when I first started doing music, I thought to myself, I should have gotten a business major. Like, I didn't realize how much business and marketing was in just trying to share your art, but that's over half the battle. And so I realized, well, what am I good at? Oh, I'm really good at video editing. I'm very good at, film directing. And so I started making these music videos, and, they found a home, of course, on YouTube. Anyway, so it was interesting to realize how all these very different skills that I either wanted to develop or that I had somehow kind of created this cornucopia that worked, and in a way that no one had ever done it before. And it all just came from, one, using what I had, and then also, what are my passions and how can I put them together?
So for you, your posts on social media and your content goes back 10, 12, 13 years, still with millions of views. Walk us through that experience. Like, I'm ready to take this and start putting it out for the world to see. Where did you host it? How did you manage that? Walk us through those early days of getting that early social media following.
Well, I think it's important to realize that back when I started doing my whole YouTube journey and using social media was not a widely known thing yet. YouTube was still in its early days, where most people, including myself, considered it a place for like cat videos and just weird things that, almost like the rejects of the entertainment industry were seen as the people that went to YouTube. And so it's interesting to think of it that way, because prior to getting on YouTube, I had a book that I bought that was How to Make It in the Music Business. And I read this book, and it discouraged me to no end, because I was like, I don't have this kind of money. I don't have these kind of connections. This will take me my entire life to go about it this way. And thankfully, though, I discovered, kind of a backdoor approach. And I think that nowadays, in starting any business, all of these ideas of social media are so widely accepted that sometimes we feel like we've missed the boat on them. I mean, I think a lot of people do, thinking, oh gosh, it's impossible for me to start on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it may be, because it feels like that wave has passed. But over and over again in my journey of using social media, I've realized the rules are constantly changing. And if you feel like you missed the wave on YouTube, don't worry. Another social media platform will arise. It was YouTube, then it was Vine, now it's TikTok. The next one is coming. And so it's interesting to think about, if you think the traditional model, like that book, How to Make It in the Music Industry, if you are looking at things like that and thinking, this doesn't work for me, that's okay. There's literally a million ways. And doing YouTube was actually like my plan W. I tried a lot of different things. And I think it's really important to experiment and be okay with putting yourself out there in a place where maybe you don't fully understand it yet. It's really normal to feel super uncomfortable in that journey as you try these different things. But by trying lots of different things, that's the only way I am here today, is because, like I said, I was doing open mic nights. I did the college circuit gig. I went on America's Got Talent. I sent DVDs to record labels. Like, I did so many things. I got on a bus and rode it to Vegas from Utah to hand out, to talent agencies, little pamphlets of like my business cards. Anyways, I tried a lot of things. And so when I discovered YouTube, I was already very used to making myself uncomfortable. And YouTube was just the one that happened to work.
That's amazing advice. Talk to me about the feedback loop, meaning you would start to post some things and you started to learn which type of content really worked, which type of content was getting maybe more views than you thought, or other things that would get less than you thought, and how you reacted to that over time as you look to expand that viewership and audience over time.
Yes, I very quickly learned, because, here I was like, I want to write original music. What were my end goals? My end goals were, I wanted to write original music. I wanted to have albums. I wanted to have songs that, fans, my own fans, would be able to recognize. And I wanted to tour. That was the end goal for me. Being a young violinist that was just starting a YouTube channel, it was interesting to think about, what is actually leading me towards that goal? The goal always stayed the same, but sometimes the content had to deviate from what I thought. Instead of just focusing on original music, I had to be like, wow, when I do the obvious things that we all know now, it's taught in all the YouTube, seminars and stuff, you have to start with searchable content. And so I started doing things that were current, like video game covers. I released this Zelda medley, right as Zelda released their very anticipated new game that was coming out. And so I released it the same exact weekend. Zelda was a searchable topic because people were looking for it. They were looking for, gameplay footage. And so what did they come across? Some girl dancing in the woods dressed up as Link, playing the violin. And to be honest, I've never gamed. I'm not a gamer. And so some people might be like, sell out. But I loved the music. I love cosplay. So to me, it felt like, okay, this can be a part of this fits into my world. Yes, it wasn't the dream of I didn't want to be in the end game playing the Zelda medley on stage in front of people, which I have many times. But that took me forward to my end goal because it helped me develop an audience. And also I started this process of doing a cover song. And at the end of the video, I'd always link my original songs. And so it was almost like the bait to get people to click on the original, the end goal. And so I think that's the most important thing I've learned is, rather than focusing on project by project, or exactly working on the end goal, break it down into the overall vision and what things are going to help me, make it a step process.
Right. At some point in that progression, you knew you were onto something. What was the tipping point for you where you're like, okay, this is going to work, and this might even work really big here?
Yes, I had a very specific moment, and it wasn't the Zelda medley, that was my first viral video, but it was months later when I had written an original song. It was a dubstep song. Dubstep was a huge emerging fad of music. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try to make a dubstep song for the violin. Never been done before. Again, taking something super current and searchable. and then doing something that'd never been done before in my own way. And I remember I put this video up at the time. I think I had like 100,000 subscribers, which is a good amount, you know. But within 24 hours, that video had over 1 million views. That had never happened to me before, even with any of the covers. And the fact that it was my music, it was like my attempt at the end goal. And that's what people were resonating with and sharing and saying, you got to hear this. Like, and so for me, I remember sitting there and looking at the numbers and thinking, my life just changed. I knew it in that moment. I knew it so strongly. I felt it in my heart, my gut, my spirit, like all the things connected. And I knew, and it was true. My life had changed in that very moment.
That must have been an amazing experience. You know, one of the things that you're known for is authenticity. It's a often thrown around word. I'm curious what that word means to you.
You know, to me, the word authenticity goes so much deeper than kind of the artist level that a lot of people think of it as. Like, I remember I used to think of it just as if you're authentic. Well, I can't say that word. If you're authentic, then you'll do the kind of music, you know, you won't sell out. You'll stay true to your artistry. But for me, it's so much deeper because it means that I'm true to the person that I want to stay. And to me, that is values. That's not straying from the values that I care about and that I consistently decide I still care about. And that's people, putting people first, realizing that people are always just people, and every single person, whether I'm in a car in traffic, and, just really viewing people as people is something that is a staple in my life. And it comes a lot from my spirituality. And so to me, authenticity comes totally from the core of who you are. And then everything else about your business will come from that core, and it will be authentic.
Part of authenticity is just being willing to bring your whole self out there and not let them see just one side of you, but the good days, the bad days, the hard times, the things that you've struggled with, not just the places where you've been successful. I think that's where you've been amazing. How do you know when to set boundaries, though? Because your whole life isn't for the whole world. And where do you find that spot? It's like, well, here's what I'm willing to share, and here's the things that I'm just going to hold just for me personally and just for those who are, in my sort of close personal circles.
Oh gosh, that is a constant battle, I think, especially for anybody who is trying to put themselves out there as an artist or as a business. Where do you draw boundaries between fans, between all of that? And, this is actually something I've studied. I'm a big believer in, I like self-help books. I know a lot of people find them kooky or, wacky, whatever. I love them. I love the way they make me view my life. I love the way they set my perspective straight. I kind of constantly am listening to them if I'm getting ready and I just was listening to a book by Brené Brown on this subject. And it's authentic to share something if it's not for the purpose of attention. Like the moment it goes into attention seeking, I want to share my story of anorexia because I want people to see how strong I am that I got through it, or I want them to feel sorry for me. I want attention. I want them to, really be like, oh my gosh, that poor girl. If that is ever the reason that you're being authentic is for the attention, you're doing it for the wrong reason and you shouldn't. If you're doing it in a way to connect with somebody, connect with a fan, connect with a customer, have an empathetic moment because you can say, I felt that way before, or to teach, that is when it's something that it can be really powerful. Also, you have to realize that you're okay in the moment. You don't want to share something when it's super raw and vulnerable. You share it once you understand it. And sometimes I blur that line a little bit. I remember when I was going through loss and grief for the first time, I think I was sometimes a little too open, almost using my fans as a therapy session on a live stream, and probably not the best idea. Yeah, it shows pain and it shows vulnerability, but I've made mistakes in this arena and I'm continuously learning. And that's why I like to study mental health and all of this stuff so that I can best understand how to be authentic in the right way. And I've done a lot of reading of books and studying on this subject and still learning.
Amazing. One of the things that you touched on earlier is that there's always another platform, always another social media network where you can go find an audience. But as you know, and you've built successful followings across all of them, the same content formula that works for one doesn't always translate to another one. So there's a discovery process of like, I got to figure out what works on these new platforms. Walk us through that for you. Tell us how you've discovered how to have the perfect fit and sort of tweaked content so it works well on these new and emerging platforms.
You know, it is true that nothing will work on every platform. And the more they come up with, the more frustrating it is as you grow these followings on each of them, which also you have to start from scratch every time. So it's like every time a new platform arises, me and all my, friends who are also use social media as their business model, we're all like, oh no, another one is here. Because you have to study it. You really do. You have to study that platform. And I remember, for example, it was a few months ago when I finally decided, okay, I really need to not just have a TikTok account. I can't just take music videos and throw them on TikTok because that's not working. And so I had to spend a ton of time sitting on TikTok and understanding as I swiped and swiped and swiped hours, being like, what is working on here for other people? And especially if I'd see a video come across my page that I didn't understand. And I thought to myself, why does this video have millions of likes? And I felt like that old lady that was just like, I don't get it. Whenever I'd have that feeling, I'd think to myself, okay, let's study this video because Gen Z is the one, for example, that's on TikTok. You have to understand what audience is on each vertical. And so by studying it and realizing, starting to notice patterns of, oh, this is what works well, studying also off the platform, looking up articles about it, looking up how the algorithm works. It's so important to understand what the search engine is looking for on YouTube, on Instagram, it helps you be able to create content, not only for the audience, but for the algorithm and the way that this machine is dissecting the content. And it also, then when you start creating content, you'll realize there is a way to adapt every single content to work somewhat for each platform once you understand it. So it's not like you have to make completely original content for every platform, which that's the best way probably to do it. But when you don't have time to do that, you think smarter, not harder. And you're like, well, now that I have the camera set up and I have this concept, how can I make this work for multiple of the platforms? Whether it's filming it twice, by turning the camera over, at least you're still in the outfit, you're already, it allows you to think smarter once you understand why you're doing stuff and realizing that there's also a different relationship that you are having with the consumers on every one of these platforms, because on different platforms, they're looking for a different relationship. It's also different kinds of people that you'll find, which is really cool because I look at the different platforms almost as if they're Venn diagrams. My YouTube audience overlaps with my Instagram audience, but there's some people, for sure, a lot that are on Instagram and a lot on YouTube that don't overlap. So it's allowing you to it's not like the numbers go on top of each other and stack, they go out. And by making new content that fits each platform, you're reaching an astronomical number of people because they are different age groups, demographics, different people.
There must have been a point as your audience was growing where in the early days you were highly interactive, responding, and there's a dialogue happening between you and your fans. And it's always been a two-way street. But boy, once you get 300 million views on some of these videos and, super active, comment spaces, mostly all positive, but there's plenty of trolls there. How did you decide, okay, how much am I really going to engage here versus how do I create some space, so I can sleep at night and practice and write new content and stay focused on my craft and have time for my family while still making time for your audience?
I think that's by constantly just looking for new things. And for example, an example of this is recently I just started doing Twitch, which is a streaming service where you live stream. And I don't have huge high numbers on Twitch. I don't. I've just started on there. But one, I find a lot of enjoyment by it. And I think that's really important to evaluate when you do have something that's rolling really well. And I, for a long time, was so used to thinking of what is the most efficient, always thinking, what is the most efficient? What's the most bang for my buck in terms of time? And I've started to realize wow, I can sometimes just choose to do something, not because it's going to get the most numbers or the most views or the most efficiency out of my moments, but I love doing my Twitch streams because it feels almost like the engagement I had back in the day when I did have a smaller audience, because Some fans want to be casual fans or want to be casual customers or whatever it is. They just want to see you as like a friend in the hallway at school. Other fans or, business interactions, they want to feel like they're married to you. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, is there are different platforms or different relationships you can offer to your fans or customers. And so, for example, on my Twitch, those are the kind of fans that want to feel like they're in a relationship with me. They comment. There's less of them. I can see their comments. They show up. They'll hang out with me for 2 hours while I literally practice the violin, which took a lot of vulnerability to just have practices on stream in front of people. I was terrified at first, but I keep realizing, one, I have to keep stretching myself and trying new things. I have to allow myself to be vulnerable the more I put myself out there. But also realizing that these different platforms allow for different relationships with your fans. And that's another thing I learned. One of the most valuable things I learned about TikTok was when finally I realized, oh, TikTok isn't like Instagram where you make content for your fans. TikTok is where you're making content for anyone. If it's not entertaining for someone who's never heard of me, then it's not going to work on TikTok, because it has to be the kind of content that's like, it's like you're hooking up instead of being married. That's what TikTok is. And it took me a long time to realize that. And once I realized it, one, it was less personal, because it wasn't like my fans don't like me. It was, I have to make content for that anyone. So I think that's one of the most important things about using these different ways of marketing, is you realize there's a different relationship involved in every one of them. And
It's funny, I think of each of these platforms as like a person that you have to make time to have a relationship with. And I'm thinking about you as an influencer, creating music, traveling around the world. How do you actually find time to post across so many different social platforms? And how do you prioritize the frequency by which you'll do that?
During a pandemic lockdown, it's been a little bit easier to do consistent types of social media like TikTok. I've gotten really good at just doing one, like I do like 5 a week at least, and finding out how I can also make the most of that moment by how can I also put this on Instagram? Like, how could I re-edit this to make it work for Instagram or whatnot? But when I'm touring, I think it's honestly just thinking of it's priorities. When I'm on tour, my priority is to the show. I am putting on a show every night for people who are so excited to see that show that I've prepared for them. That's the focus. And then whatever else I can squeeze in the day is like, great. And so also utilizing where I'm at, like when I'm on tour, I'm busier because I'm focused on that, but also it provides so many opportunities to make content. And if I can utilize that in a way that just goes with my day by filming funny moments, or having a photographer come out the first 2 weeks and take tons of just pictures for social media posting, like using the place I'm at for what it's actually for, rather than trying to fight against it. It's like, if I'm in music video mode, okay, well, we're here. Let's film some extra content that we can. If I'm in tour mode, oh my gosh, I have at my disposal these cool tour things that are interesting. How can I make what I do just trickle into everything? And I think that's the only way. It's by kind of focusing. That's the only way I can focus on everything, is by really focusing on what I'm doing now.
Smart. Okay, so with all the activity you've had across all these platforms and the amazing success that you've had, have you ever made a social media misstep? And if so, how did you right the ship?
Gosh, I could think of, just off the bat, I can think of 2. I put dreads in my hair one time. It was actually for a music video, but I'd always wanted to put dreads in my hair. I think they look so cool. I did not even think about, it didn't even cross my mind in the process that might be thought of as cultural appropriation, which is a very hot topic. And so I don't know, I suddenly saw all these comments about that, I hated certain cultures. I was disrespecting people. It was, it was white privileged of me. And rather than fighting against it and saying how dare you, I didn't say I just said, I'm so sorry everybody feels that way. I did not think of that, and I never meant to do that, and just getting in fights on social media is never going to, and sometimes the best response is just to say, I'm really sorry if I offended anyone. And another thing I remember recently, I'm a terrible speller. My managers laugh at me all the time. I spell everything wrong. I'm dyslexic. I just don't see it. And even words that you would think I would know how to spell, like everybody does. But I recently posted about a book club. I started a Twitch book club, which I was really enjoying. It's when we read the Brene Brown book. I read it with my fans and discussed it with them. But I was like posting saying, come read the first 2 chapters with me. And I spelled read wrong. Like, how does someone even do that? And and for 1 second, I have a thing because I was dyslexic and because I struggled reading in school. I have this underlying feeling all the time that I'm dumb. And I notice I get super protective of myself and reactionary if I'm in a situation where I feel like people think I'm dumb. And I started to go into this shame spiral over it, so embarrassed. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to go on there and I'm going to tell people that even though I spelt read wrong, I'm dyslexic, sorry, because they were all laughing, saying, ah. And I went on, I said, you know what? I used to have a lot of shame because I couldn't spell. And I used to think I was really dumb in school. And I felt like I was stupid because I couldn't spell. But now I know that's not true. And I'm still smart. I'm actually darn smart. And I shared that. And I was like, even if I can't spell, I had so many messages from fans expressing that my daughter is dyslexic and it made her feel so smart that you were dyslexic. Just that goes back to authenticity. And I think it's really important sometimes to not just hide all the mistakes, but to say, shoot, dang it. That's a part of me, not something necessarily I'm proud of, but I'm still okay. And anyone else who feels like that as well will realize they're okay too, in spite of that, maybe even because of it.
Well, your honesty and vulnerability is inspiring. So there's Lindsey Stirling, this incredible performer, who's this, I guess you'd call you a craftswoman of the amazing thing that you do. But then there's really Lindsey Stirling, the business, and you're the CEO. And there's all these different components of your role, and certainly, your reputation and your presence and following in social media is really, really important. So for all the entrepreneurs out there who are out ready to start a business, and it could be something as simple as the next great ice cream store, to a dog walking service, to they want to be a physical therapist, to your local HVAC service person, and they know they can get an advantage if they're effective in using social media to connect with their audience. What advice would you have for them?
My best advice is to think broad. I have a friend who's a musician, and a lot of my examples will go back to being an artist or a musician or something, because that's the world I know the best for sure. But I have learned very much to think like a businesswoman. I have a friend who's a young artist, and I've been giving him advice because he's just starting. And I remember I was telling him how important it is to you should post something more often. You're not posting enough. He's like, well, I don't have a song to promote right now. And I was like, you're missing the point. The point is you're promoting you're just trying to be present. And in a world where there is so much noise, it's not always well, we have a new service that we want to offer, and so that's when we post. Or we have a new deal, a new sale that, we're putting out there, so that's when we post. No, every post doesn't have to be about a specific song that someone's promoting or a specific branding thing. It's just about the overall picture. You are trying to sell either you as an entrepreneur, or you're trying to sell you as a business, or your product. That is the picture, not the specifics. So go broad. And even when I'm doing my TikTok, I would say I still haven't 100% figured out how to kill it on TikTok. I'm still learning a ton. But I would say not a good amount of my stuff isn't even music based, because I find that that's a lot of times what the algorithm wants. And those sometimes do much better than my specific song-based posts. However, do they help the overall brand? Are they selling my personality as an artist? Yes. Are they leading people? Is it like the bait that's leading them back to the song that they will find if they go to my page? Yes. Even though like yesterday I posted one where I was trying to do this like crazy yoga thing and it was kind of funny because I failed. It has nothing to do with music, but people watched it and now they're watching my other stuff. So I would say go broad and realize that you're just trying to support the brand, not always the individual moments, songs, products, sales. It's all about the overall.
This is incredible insight. Thank you so much for joining us, Lindsay. I can't wait to start my own personal TikTok. I don't think I'll be rivaling you on the leaderboards anytime soon, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for more tips on how to attract customers and grow your business.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Sonneberg, founder and CEO at Awardco. Thanks for joining my session today at the Business Growth Summit. Your time is valuable, so let's dive right in. On February 22nd, 2011, I was sued civilly by the FTC for $150 million. I was 30 years old, married with 4 kids, all under the age of 5. All my assets were frozen. This is how my story begins. 1 week earlier, with my family, I rented a beachfront house for 2 weeks. I'd taken my family on vacations before, but this was different. It was a real treat having a private home backing up to the beach all to ourselves. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was boarding a boat with my wife and 2 of my 4 kids for a day of whale watching. We're gonna go snorkeling and viewing the Nepali coastline. My phone rings. It was my business partner. He tells me the authorities are raiding 2 of my offices. Raiding? Who? He says SWAT. They were yelling at the employees and herding them all into one room away from their desks and computers. I owned a development company that builds software for new entrepreneurs that want to sell products online. For example, my team built an eBay analytical engine that analyzes selling patterns. We provided a digital dashboard of information that helped customers understand when and how and for what price they should list their item on eBay. I also owned a consulting business that helped coach people on how to sell products online. I learned that a company down in Las Vegas that I did a lot of business with was being sued by the FTC. And this company had a small percentage of my company. And I was one of 8 defendants that was being wrapped up into everything. There was various business practices that the FTC did not agree with. I was so amped. I wanted to fight the FTC, but they froze all my assets. I had no money. And since this case was civil, there was one judge that held my fate. And a federal judgment cannot be forgiven in a bankruptcy. 2 years later, I reached a settlement with the FTC. I walked away from a career that I've built. I had over 200 employees. I agreed to never get into that business coaching industry ever again. The result of walking away from everything resulted in me filing for bankruptcy. Amidst the most difficult time of my life, I decided to start Awardco. The dream was still alive. It was literally 2 weeks after the FTC came in. So I took $5,000, money I did not have, and I bought the domain awardco.com from someone who already owned it. I had a bold idea. I needed a bold name. It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. Zig Ziglar said that. I believe that optimism is an essential quality for doing anything hard. That doesn't mean that you're blind or unrealistic. It means that you keep focused on eliminating your risks, modifying your strategy until it is a strategy about which you can be genuinely optimistic. With Awardco, I wanted to create that Amazon-like experience for the recognition and incentive industry. My father was in the industry, and he was one of the best salespeople I know. He's the type that would win second place and throw the award away because it wasn't first. But I didn't care for the lapel pins, the plaques, the rings, the limited product rewards and high markups. The younger generation wants choice. They want fast and free shipping. They want to feel valued. My cousin Mike saw the same vision. I needed his help since he was the Da Vinci of code. So he and I partnered together, and we were able to gain access to Amazon's API. With the tools at our disposal, we rebuilt a portion of Amazon into a points program. Managers can have a budget of points. They can reward points. And employees got to choose from hundreds of millions of products on this new Awardco platform. However, we had a real big problem. Amazon did not like what we built. In fact, I was directed to send my business proposal in writing to an address in Texas. And last I knew, that is not where Amazon was located, so I didn't do that. Instead, I stayed stubborn on my vision, but flexible on my approach. And that's something I learned from Jeff Bezos. Stubborn on your vision, flexible on the approach. There was no roadmap. From 2011 to 2015, I sold Awardco software licenses. Orders would come in, and we would capture all the details of the order. And my wife would log into an Amazon account and fulfill those orders. This model was not scalable, but it worked. We started getting larger companies to sign up. More money was being sent to Amazon, but frequently, Amazon would shut down our Amazon account used for fulfilling orders. You can't process lots of money on Amazon not to expect to hit some fraud triggers. Now, Amazon was great to work with. We would explain what we were doing, and they would activate our Amazon accounts again, over and over again. Then we got lucky. In 2015, Amazon Business was founded. By this time, I developed a few relationships with people in Seattle. And at the end of 2016, I was invited to come to their headquarters to present Awardco to a team of new Amazon Business employees in a big boardroom. And it was a hit. Amazon Business doubled down on Awardco, and together we improved the experience for the customer. There was no more shutting down Amazon accounts. We were able to automate the ordering process. So I fired my wife, but she was happy to move on. Now, we didn't stop there. We integrated with all the Amazon warehouses all over the world. If you live in Japan, we'd show the customer products from the Japanese warehouse, eliminating customs and oftentimes shipping. We now have over 2.4 million users in 140 different countries. We have signed up some of the largest brands in the world. We're one of the fastest growing companies in America. And last year, this time, we had 46 employees. Today, we have 180. We didn't take a large round of funding. We didn't spend more than we had. We remained cash flow neutral. Bootstrapping forces you to make smart decisions. Now, I tell you this story to prove it doesn't matter the challenges you face. You're never defeated. There will be moments you will doubt yourself. The rough times will come, but they have not come to stay. They have come to pass. It's easy to complain. It's easy to point out your circumstances. It doesn't matter how many failures you have made. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you have endured. It doesn't matter about your defeats. I didn't care about the fact I was in a hole. It didn't matter where I am. What matters is today, and that you create more than you can consume. If you want to grow your business, you must create more than you can consume. Jeff Bezos said it best this year in April 2021. It was his last shareholder letter to the empire that he built. He said, if you want to be successful in business, in life actually, you have to create more than you can consume. Your goal should be to create value for everyone you interact with. Any business that doesn't create values for those it touches, even if it appears successful on the surface, isn't long for this world. It's on its way out. Now let's illustrate by turning this phrase from Jeff Bezos into a question and apply it directly to ourselves. Do I create more than I can consume? In my relationships, in my professional life, and the business I'm running. Mr. Bezos went on in his shareholder letter and quantified his value to the world. He talked about individual shareholders, employees, and third-party sellers, and of course, customers. The customer analytics was the most interesting to me. Bezos calculated an argument for the amount of time saved by making online purchases using Amazon, and he tried to put a dollar value on it. He comes up with 75 hours per year, multiplies it by $10 an hour, at a minimum, that's at least what we're worth, and subtracts the cost of a Prime membership to come up with $630 per Prime member. With 200 million members, he calculates the value creation at $126 billion. Now that's one way to look at it. Now hopefully this thought and concept will get you thinking about what you're creating for the world, and is it here to stay? Now, where do we start in order to grow our business? You must first understand your purpose and why you exist. Second, you need to develop a balanced recognition plan that will support your purpose and create value for those around you. Over the next few minutes, I want to dive deep into these concepts. First, let's start with purpose. The most influential and successful organizations in the world have a powerful reason they exist, and this purpose drives their success. Sometimes it's a vision or a mission statement. Obviously, every company has a common purpose, to make money. But why do they want to make money? What is your reason you exist? Airbnb, we exist to encourage exploration by championing non-traditional lodging options to travelers. Nike, we exist to ignite potential by inspiring human beings through physical activity. Tesla, we exist to change the planet by pioneering innovation in transportation. Awardco, we exist to recognize the good in each of us and reward the value we bring to each other. Purpose-driven companies outperform the stock market by 42%. Again, what is your reason you exist? Once you identify your reason for existence, your purpose, you must establish a balanced recognition strategy. Recognizing values drives behaviors, and behaviors build culture. The reason an organization exists is often distilled into values and communicated to its people. We are going to achieve X by doing and learning and being Y. Oftentimes, these values are nothing more than words on a wall in an organization. You see it, customer obsession, integrity, and so on. At Awardco, we value customers, flexibility, goals, innovation, simplicity, and transparency. And these values support our reason why we exist. In order to make our values come alive, recognition should occur within your communication flow. For us, that is Slack. For others, that might be Microsoft Teams. At my organization, I have the ability to tag someone I want to recognize. I then tag a value the employee is demonstrating. I then share a story that recognizes the value the employee is exemplifying. Purpose-driven organizations have learned that these values have to be over-communicated and often demonstrated, frequently recognized, and always rewarded to fully engage employees and encourage repeat behavior. I call this the value cycle. Now, human beings, they have wants, hopes, fears, and needs. Abraham Maslow was a scientist that popularized the idea behind a hierarchy of needs. Often, this is visualized as a pyramid. The quick explanation is that we have basic needs that must be met before we move on to the more advanced needs. Rewards and recognition can help satisfy psychological and self-fulfillment needs. Recognition helps bridge the gap between what an organization is trying to do and filling human needs for belonging, esteem, and self-fulfillment. Every employee must work together or serve one another to belong. They must earn esteem, and they must excel to feel fulfillment. In other words, a balanced recognition program fulfills needs and drives behavior. Now, we do this with programs built to celebrate, recognize, and reward. We celebrate everyone to create a belonging. We recognize high performers to create esteem. And we reward MVPs to create self-fulfillment. For most organizations, we recommend a 3-to-1 ratio of programs to match the pyramid. 3 celebratory programs, 2 recognition programs, and 1 MVP program. Everyone should be celebrated in your organization by virtue of just being themselves and making a commitment to your organization. So how do we do this? Well, everyone has a first day. Everyone has a birthday once a year. Most companies celebrate common holidays and special events like Employee Appreciation Day. Everyone has a life outside of work. Celebrating those life events brings work and home life together. Just last week, I had 4 engineers graduate college and are now full-time with Awardco. That's a reason to celebrate and have the celebratory recognition highlight them in a social channel. Allow other employees to congratulate. This will create a sense of belonging. Now, we want to recognize. It must be earned. We want to drive value adoption, incentivize team players, and highlight those contributing at a high level with specific timely recognition. Chief among recognition programs that drive behavior is a program to spotlight core values your people are displaying. No longer are your values blasted on a wall. Your values can come alive with daily recognition from your peers. This is one of my favorite programs because I can literally see all the values that we believe in, and I can read stories about them every day, and then I can contribute, give it a thumbs up. Another recommended program is sales incentives to drive growth. Not just cash bonuses. We want to create an experience for our employees. By utilizing incentives, we can motivate our employees to reach out, attract, and bring in more customers. I want to share just a quick story of how we turned a department around that yielded more revenue to us. In our sales department, we have a team of SDRs, Sales Development Representatives. This is our entry-level sales team that focuses on creating first meetings with prospects. Their sole objective was to get 5 new meetings scheduled each week. For an entire year, that number was really hard to hit. And at times, we have had our SDRs hit that number, but oftentimes they did not. One of my other partners at Awardco and current COO, Tanner Runia, he was determined to turn the SDR team around, and he volunteered to fix our problem. He used the power of recognition and incentives to accomplish our objective of getting 5 new meetings set by a representative. In fact, the recognition and incentive program did more than we could imagine. We started having reps get 10 new meetings set, 15, 20. We even had reps break the ceiling and get 30 in 1 week. The culture on our SDR team completely changed. It was a culture of creating more than they can consume. It was a culture of recognition, a culture of winning. Our highest tier is our exclusive programs that reward those who are the lifeblood of your organization with high-value rewards and experiences. A President's Club, a Circle of Excellence. Maybe it's only rewarded once a year. At Awardco, we call it the A-Team Award. It's a program where they have to be nominated, and the executive team selects the winner. The reward is substantial, and it's authentic. It's something to aspire to. Each month, we select a new A-Team player, and we pay a little extra to have a celebrity announce the winner. We go through a service called Cameo. Our last winner had Toby from The Office announce the winner, and this coming A-Team player, we have Lindsay Lohan. The service will cost an extra few $100s, but for us, it was worth it. It was worth the experience. It created that MVP type experience. Now, once you establish a culture of recognition, you will have more people rowing in the same direction, which will result in more output from your employees and more incoming customers. One of the things we focus on at Awardco is something called recognition per user, or RPUs. This number shows on average how many times someone at the organization is recognized per year. The higher the number means happier employees, happier customers, and higher profits. One of the main reasons why Awardco is one of the fastest growing companies in the country is we have a purpose we believe in. We have values that support that purpose. And we have a balanced recognition strategy where everyone is recognized and included. When you create a culture of belonging, esteem, and self, your customers will be taken care of, your employees will be happy, and you will bring in more business. To conclude my segment, I'd like to share our Reimagine Recognition memoir, something I care deeply about. Employee recognition has become a buzzword, overused by well-meaning executives looking to boost productivity by dangling carrots in front of their human capital. Traditional employee recognition has become a magic wand to wave in hopes that it will cure a bad case of turnoveritis. While traditional employee recognition has some issues, the promise of recognizing others remains true. Humans are happiest when we are truly valued. We feel valued when our contributions are recognized. And when we feel recognized and valued, we naturally desire to contribute even more to the business. Recognize the good in each human being and that at times we fall short. Recognize the limitless value is in with each of us, ready to be realized. Recognize how far we've come and that we still have a long way to go. Recognize that those who feel value give far more than they receive. It's a beautiful cycle, and if your employees feel valued and incentivized, you'll be able to attract more business than ever before.